Welcome, everyone. I'm Sue Barber, author, former IT director for a Fortune 500 company, turned executive coach, and this is the Visibility Factor podcast, where we explore how to raise your visibility and play bigger at work and in life. We'll explore key topics and welcome guests that help you shift your thinking about yourself so you can see new possibilities for your leadership. I'm on a mission to create a visibility movement for leaders to show their value and be seen for their true talent. Are you ready to take the next step towards a higher level of visibility for yourself? Let's go. Today's episode of the Visibility Factor podcast is brought to you by Amplify You, the ultimate program designed to unleash your full potential and amplify your success. Imagine having a personal coach cheering you on, guiding you through a journey of self-discovery, and helping you break free from those limiting beliefs that have been holding you back. That's exactly what Amplify You is all about. Whether you're a leader now or aspiring to be one, this program is your ticket to a more confident, empowered you. It's like having a supportive friend in your corner encouraging you to dream big. It's about having the career success that you want and creating a life you truly deserve. Amplify You offers a unique experience to help you build the confidence to tackle any challenge life throws your way. If you're interested in learning more about the program, please visit susanmbarber.com and click on the menu item Programs. Are you ready to transform your life and your career? Let's make it happen. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Visibility Factor podcast. This is Sue Barber, your host. Today, we're going to talk about visibility in the workplace. Now, this episode is going to be very helpful for you if you are new to the whole visibility conversation, but it's also going to spark some new ideas for those who are familiar with visibility already, but may not have had such a focus on it. I really want to talk to you about the importance of it and some things that I've learned that might help you bring it back into a priority for you. So being more visible simply requires intentional and consistent actions that people can see. They need to know who you are. They need to see what you can do and your capabilities and be able to think about you for opportunities. So it's really important to increase your visibility for career success. So there are two ways of thinking about being visible in the workplace. One is that I work really hard and my management knows that I do a good job, so I don't need any more visibility. That was definitely what I used to think about before I learned about the importance of it. The other way to think about it is I work hard and do a good job, but I also recognize that getting in front of my management is important to my success. So the whole reason I wrote the book was based on that second version, right? Understanding the importance of doing it and doing it well so that people can see you and think about you. So as I mentioned, I was somebody who was the first example, right? I was hiding in the back of the room. I thought it was playing politics to do visibility in front of people, and I just didn't want to do it. I rationalized that visibility wasn't important, and I had always been promoted before without doing it, so why do it now? However, once you learn this information, you just can't unsee it. And especially once you get to a higher level in an organization, you have to have visibility, not only for yourself, but for your team. And just like me, because I wasn't being visible enough, it held me back. And it just causes you not to be able to progress in the best way for your career. So I can look back now and see that my thinking was just an excuse. I was operating from fear and a belief that I had to brag in order to be visible, which isn't true. I've now learned a lot about the importance of visibility to have career success. It doesn't have to be hard. It can be created in a way that's authentic to you and your style. And it's the whole reason I wrote the book and created this podcast. I want to try to spread the knowledge about visibility, educate people on how easy it is, and be able to give them ideas and ways to start to do it for themselves. So you can think about visibility as just offering to help someone or sharing some facts about what you and your team are doing. It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't mean you have to get up on a stage and do speaking in front of hundreds of people. What we're trying to do is to get them to see you in a new way and to hear from you, to hear your voice, to see what you're doing. There are a lot of benefits of visibility for you. So think about some of these that I'm going to share here. First, it may seem basic, but people are going to know who you are. If they don't know who you are when it comes time for ratings and succession planning, then that's not great, right? Because you want people to know who you are, your capabilities, and you want them to be people that are talking positively about you, The worst thing that can happen is if you're in a room and someone says, Sue Barber, and they don't know my name, they don't know who I am, they don't know what I do, they have no idea about me. That's the worst place to be. So we really want you to be someone that they know, they recognize your work, they can see your value. This is especially important in larger organizations where there are many team members that are not known to senior management. They may be known to their team members and managers, but that's it. So when it comes time for the succession planning conversations, what I advocate for people to do is to make sure that they're getting in front of their managers' peers, make sure that other people in the organization who are going to be in that room know your name, so that when it comes time for your manager to put you up for a promotion, everyone just nods their head yes. It makes it a really easy conversation if you've already done some of the work to get in front of people so they know you. Someone who has a positive or even a negative view of you is better than having no view of you at all. The second thing is that people can start to see the value that you bring as well as your team, and how are you helping the company. So hiding behind others diminishes the value that you bring, and it limits your potential to do more. Ask yourself why you aren't in front more. Now, a lot of people might bring up the words like fear, imposter syndrome, I don't feel like I'm good enough or smart enough, I feel like other people are better than I am. But I want you to just take some simple ways to start out doing things that are different, taking some new actions to build your confidence and get used to being in the spotlight. Present something in a meeting, lead a volunteer group, write something for the company newsletter. Try things that push you out of your comfort zone, but fit well within who you are and your style. And the last one I'll share is it benefits your team. I didn't realize this when I was having my challenges with visibility. I was thinking I was only keeping myself hidden, but what I didn't realize is how much I was hiding my team. So your visibility automatically helps provide a view of what your team is doing if you talk about it. Share the accomplishments and wins that they have and what they are doing so that people understand the projects they're working on, the types of work that they're doing, how they're stretching themselves in terms of leadership and influence. It also helps to provide visibility to team members that are ready for the next step. Introduce them to people who have influence, give them opportunities to lead things, and talk about them when you have conversations with senior management. Your support of them is one of the most important signs that they have a strong potential to do more in the organization. So I hope you can see why this is important for you and your team. Think about the career goals that you and your team have and how visibility can help you reach them faster. Now, I recognize not everybody has the same level of comfort with visibility as a leader, and that's okay. Feelings of doubt are common, especially when you take on a new role at work that is bigger and more visible. Although it may seem like you have to change to fit into this new level, this is a choice that you get to make. One way I found to combat anxieties around visibility is to come up with a story that helps to show your work and who you are as a leader. It doesn't have to be any longer than a couple of minutes, but doing this consistently is how I started to share my accomplishments with someone when I met them. So think of it as an introduction about you, how long you've been in the company, the types of roles that you've had, what makes you stand out. And if you can do this in a very confident way, then people will remember you. They'll understand what you're about, who you are, and they'll remember you the next time someone brings up your name. So I always try to have a few stories ready to go so that no matter who I talk to, I'm going to be ready. Everyone has value to add to an organization, and talking about what you do helps to raise your visibility. Sharing through the use of stories can make it easier, and people will remember it. When you are advocating for yourself, I want you to think about the things that are happening around you that are good. Things that are really great stories to talk about on projects and successes that you're having. But it's okay to also speak up when things aren't going well too. That was a lesson I didn't learn very early on, but I did learn later on how important it is to ask for help and to bring up the reality of what it takes to sometimes do these projects. I think sometimes we hide that it's easier than it really is because we don't want people to see that we're not doing things in the best way. So many leaders struggle to bring up hard conversations with their managers. They feel that it will be negative for them, and if they need help, they won't get it. Now, that can come from past experiences. Maybe they asked for help and weren't able to get it before, and so they assume that they won't get it again. But think of this as an opportunity to share a problem, but not without a set of solutions. You're going to come into the conversation sharing the problem and what you want to do. You can lay it out with facts so that the data speaks for itself and it becomes an easier conversation about the solutions you want to have, and you have the data to back it up. Use problems as an opportunity to advocate for yourself and get some visibility. Show that you can think strategically about the situation and how to best solve it. Some of my biggest visibility moments were extremely high-profile situations that I owned and drove to completion. They weren't easy, and I definitely wasn't thinking about visibility in those moments. I was focused on how can we solve this huge issue in the best way for the company. I was authentic, transparent, and led my team and the clients through the plan so that we could solve the problem. Don't shy away from those tough moments. Sometimes it gives people a chance to see a new side of your leadership and how you can show up under pressure. So I like to believe that most leaders are good and do the best that they can for their teams. But we've all had a manager along the way that wasn't maybe a great leader and didn't help to either support us or help develop us. So we could dive into an understanding of why they are this way, but I would rather have you consider how this type of situation impacts you and figure out what you want to do. I talked a little bit about this in the last episode of the podcast called Managing Up. I will include the link here for you to check it out in the notes. But I wanted to go into it a little bit differently this time. I want to give you some questions to consider and think about for yourself. So, can you continue to do your job and not let them negatively impact you? A lot of people will hold a grudge against their manager or feel that they're not supporting them and maybe play a little bit of a victim. But what we're trying to do is help you be able to stand up and advocate for yourself, regardless of where they are. Can you build relationships with decision makers and influencers that give you visibility and allow you to establish your own brand? The more people who know you, the better off you are. So don't wait for your manager to be the only one to talk about you. Talk about yourself, build relationships with other key influencers in the organization so that they can help you. Do you have the confidence and self-motivation to get things done regardless of the situation with your manager? You need to be able to lead on your own anyway. So let's start showing that now. You don't need your manager to tell you what to do. You can start to take these opportunities to step into a bigger way of leading and get help from a mentor or get help from a peer if you run into issues. Do you have other mentors, sponsors, or peers that you can rely on and who can provide support for you? Always good to have those people in your corner that you can rely on and ask for feedback. Can you have success in the company regardless of your manager? That one's probably a little challenging, right? Because your manager is the person who assigned your rating. So I would say you want to build the best relationship that you can, but recognize that they may not go above and beyond for you. That doesn't mean you can't have a relationship with them where you can actually work together and understand each other, and you can still get decent ratings from them. But it just may not be the person who actually pushes you along and gives you extra development. Is this situation negatively impacting your mental health and you need to get help or leave the company? There's plenty of people, unfortunately, dealing with toxic leadership. And so sometimes that is the case, and you have to make that decision for yourself, whether or not you can maybe move to a different part of the organization. Can you find ways to have this group of people outside of your manager that support you so that you can move forward? But you have to really think about your own situation and decide whether or not leaving is the best thing for you. And just know that the grass isn't always greener at another company. There still may be issues you have to deal with. So the more you can deal with working for leaders of all different types, the better off you are. So these are just a few questions to ask yourself, and I recognize the answers are not easy. This is a tough place to be, but you have the choice of how to handle it. You will need to look out for yourself and find a way to carve out your own space in the organization so that people can see you stand on your own. You don't need a manager to create these opportunities for you. This situation could force you to rely on yourself and the people that you trust to help you. There are many ways that you can continue to stand on your own and do what you need to do. You simply decide that you will not let this person define who you are and what you can do. I know it isn't easy. I have been there. But no matter what your decision is, you have to do what's best for you. So the goal is to never let someone make you feel invisible or undervalued. And if you're in that situation, just remember that you have choices. Life is too short to be in a situation that makes you miserable. So our goal is for you to take the lead and be visible for yourself. Think about a meeting you've been in with a large group of people, a question that maybe came up for you, but you hesitated to ask it. What happened in that moment? For some, they may assume that everybody else probably knows the answer and they're embarrassed to answer, so they keep quiet. For others, it may mean that they don't want to stand out by asking a question, so they don't say anything, and they choose to ask someone else later. I definitely went through both of those scenarios. In both of these scenarios, it's a question of feeling safe and being confident enough to be visible in a room full of people. So much comparison occurs in these situations. It becomes an internal battle of when to stand out and when to stay hidden. The fear that you feel will keep you safe, but it also prevents others from seeing the value that you bring. So what if you asked that question and it sparked a new line of thinking that made for a rich conversation that wouldn't have happened otherwise? What if you assume that others in the room have the same question? Would you be the leader and ask it on their behalf? Sometimes it helped me to think, what would my team need to know? How could I ask a question that might help them? And if you can do that, sometimes it's a little easier than doing it on your own. Sometimes it's easier to take the lead to support other people, even if you have fear. It's no different, I think, than sometimes a mom will speak up on behalf of a child, right? Because the child can't do it for themselves. Sometimes it's the same way with a team. Your team isn't always in meetings with you, and you can ask questions that might be beneficial for them, and it still gets your voice out there. Preparing in advance for any of these scenarios is my best advice here. It takes a little extra time, but it's so worth it for you to remain calm and present in conversations and to be able to speak up with confidence. So think about some of these ideas and questions that I've asked here and reflect for yourself. Who do you want to be as a leader? How do you want to be perceived and show you are ready for new opportunities? How can you raise your visibility for yourself and others at work? Now we're going to transition into the visibility action for today. So my mission is to educate everyone on visibility and help them transform how they show up. If you don't have a visibility action plan in place for yourself, please build one. The info in the book will walk you through it, and the Rise podcast episode that I recently published on the process from the book offers plenty of ideas to leverage as well. It doesn't have to be complicated. You can start with 2 or 3 ideas and just start taking some small actions. I have hundreds of people who've been through the process and have been promoted, or in some cases, double promoted. Some people have left their companies and gone on to find better opportunities for them in a better situation. But in those moments, what happened for them is that they could see that they had a lot of potential. They built their confidence. They could see their value, all because of what we talked about in building their visibility plan and really focusing on it. So if you're interested in doing something like this, I'm offering various programs around visibility, but I have a new one called the Visibility Action Plan Workshop that will actually help you build your plan out and have conversations with other leaders who are working on their visibility too. I'll include the link to my website with all the information for all my programs, but the Visibility Action Plan Workshop is actually starting in mid-June, and I would love to have you be part of it if you're interested. So please reach out and let me know. Visibility is a game changer for your career. It definitely was for mine, and it's worth the time to build a plan to help you do more of it. So don't hesitate. Take some baby steps and just try it. And if you need my help, I'm happy to support you in it. Thanks so much for joining today on the Visibility Factor podcast, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks so much for listening to the Visibility Factor podcast. Remember that visibility starts with small steps that are intentional and consistent each day. Be bold, be visible, be the leader you were meant to be. Find us and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever else you listen to podcasts. Follow us on all of our social media platforms, which are highlighted in the show notes. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time on the Visibility Factor podcast.